Let's go over to the Middle East. Dan Feferman is here, former national security analyst and intelligence officer specialising in Middle East affairs. He's in Tel Aviv this morning. Dan, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well indeed. How are you? Probably more to the point, because obviously it's been a pretty rocky few days. The ceasefire was broken pretty soon after it was set yesterday by the Iranians. Israel, I think, retaliated. What happened after that?
So far, we're all kind of waiting around to see what goes on with this, but this entire 2 weeks has been an absolute roller coaster in an otherwise not unboring last 2 years of constant conflicts and ceasefires here in our part of the world. The ceasefire was announced by President Trump, but throughout the night, we could not find any real Iranian verification that they had agreed to it. And then, of course, we were very rudely awoken here to a massive missile barrage at 5 in the morning that kept us in the bomb shelter for over 2 hours. And unfortunately, a building was hit in the southern Israeli city of Beersheba, in which an entire family was murdered in the strike. A mom and her children, and the entire family was killed. And so we kind of waited throughout the day to see, is this real? Is this a real ceasefire? And the best we got from the Iranians is that they will stop firing if Israel stops firing.
Right.
And so now it looks like it's holding. Now it looks like, you know, from a civilian perspective, it's kind of one of these, well, is this really a ceasefire? They broke it. From an analyst perspective, we're understanding that this is their face-saving parting shot to show that they have the upper hand here.
Sure. I mean, in Israel's statement yesterday, they said that they'd achieved pretty much what they wanted to achieve. That, I presume, is still the case. But as far as what happened in Iran on sort of the early hours of Sunday morning, there's conflicting reports now as to how much damage actually the American bombing did. What's your information on that?
I'm trying to, scrape together the public discourse on this. Of course, I'm not privy to the intelligence these days, but it would be very strange to me that the largest and most powerful intelligence agency in the world, the United States, and then the one with probably the best intelligence on Iran, would conduct such a dangerous strike with the danger of escalation as both Israel and the United States did for just a setback of a few months. That would seem to me a very strange and kind of waste of a good military strike, if you will.
Right.
And so it's hard for me to take those conclusions seriously. I would also say, and something that we posted last night on our platform, Middle East 24, is that it's not just the direct hit to the sites itself. You're looking at an entire supply chain of a massive nationwide nuclear program, including offing senior nuclear scientists who are really irreplaceable. And so it's not just, did you hit one site, did you set one site back or not? A centrifuge or a building can be replaced. Did you disrupt the entire sophisticated mechanism that is a military nuclear weapons program?
Right. And certainly Iran's retaliation by going into Qatar and firing a few missiles at that Air Force base there, which was not just a US one, but an international one. I mean, that was pretty weak-minded in the end, really, wasn't it? I mean, they told everyone they were going to do it. It was really just a performative exercise for their own population, wasn't it?
This entire country, I'm talking about Iran, I'm talking about this regime, is performative. That's really all they can do.
Yeah.
It's quite a sham, and they proved themselves time and again over the last year to be a paper tiger militarily. And so every time I hear those in the West say, this is going to lead to World War III, this is an escalation, what people in the West really don't understand is that Iran has been escalating against the West and against the moderates in the Middle East for decades. Iran has been escalating against Israel with everything it has for the last few hundred days, and especially the last 2 weeks. There's not much more it can escalate. So this is really a kind of theatrical, performative act on a part of a desperate regime to show that it's not as weak as it truly is.
Right. And what about their money? Because obviously the money's important to funnel towards Hamas and to Hezbollah and to the Houthis. How much of that will still continue to happen?
Oh, it's hard for me to see that happening. You're talking about two aspects. First, Iran is broke. Iran has been broke for some time. And this is one of these things that I also remind Western audiences. Sanctions work, especially when they're upheld. They really brought Iran to the negotiating table. There's two things that work to bring Iran and other rogue regimes to the negotiating table. One is sanctions, especially on the oil, and the other is the threat of military force that then you have to back up at some time or another. The only way to get Iran to comply with international demands is that they're going to be broke. They already were prior to this. They used to funnel nearly $1 billion to Hezbollah every year, millions and millions to Hamas. But the other thing that happened in the final hours of the Israeli strike is the actual intermediary, the IRGC intermediary who funneled the money and built the smuggling and the money transfer mechanisms was killed in an Israeli airstrike. So it's going to be a bleak year for Iran's proxies around the region as well.
Yeah. So would you expect this ceasefire then to kind of remain in place for quite some time?
I do, and only because Iran is so weak.
Yeah.
I think Iran very tactically and very practically knows that it's in its interest right now to sit back, to lick its wounds, and to try to recollect and strike probably through proxies at a time of its choosing. It likes to use proxies because of deniability. And it's going to find a way to get back at Israel. And anyone who thinks that this war started 12 days ago is just mistaken. And anyone who thinks that it ended yesterday is also mistaken. The battle within the war is over for now. Unfortunately, we here in the Middle East have to bear the brunt of Iran's constant radicalism and aggression.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Dan, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Dan Feferman there, former national security analyst and intelligence officer specialising in Middle East affairs, live from Tel Aviv.